with a wrestling legend retired and the reason WWE is not punishing Charlotte Flair revealed. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for November 5th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Along with many others, Nia Jax was released from WWE yesterday, while a report from the New York Post says one of the main reasons she was cut was due to being unvaccinated. Booker T took to his Hall of Fame podcast, pointing out what went wrong with her booking. I love Nia, one of my favorite people, but the one thing with Nia was, instead of being a monster, she still wanted to be a diva. And I think, Awesome Kong, there are no frills there. I'm coming to lay waste and leave havoc in the middle of this ring. This is something that I never really felt from Nia, and that is something I really wanted, a sort of Beauty and the Beast. That is what the title for me for Nia Jax would have been, and she would have been beastly in the ring, taking care of business. With this including Nia Jax, it was reported that Fightful confirmed with WWE sources that at least 5 of the released talent were openly unvaccinated, including some very surprising names. It was stressed to us that this wasn't the exclusive reason, and wasn't the reason across the board for firings. It should be noted, releasing talent for not being vaccinated is completely legal, and would have restricted many of the venues that performers could compete in and travel availabilities. Apparently, this includes Karrion Kross as well. Speaking of Karrion Kross, he had recently gone through a character change, but apparently another one was in store prior to his release. As Dave Meltzer noted, Vince McMahon had just pulled Kross from TV, saying that he hadn't gotten over, and within the company they were told they were going to repackage him a third time. When Kross was on NXT, he was being groomed to be a main roster star because of his size and physique. He was beaten twice on TV right away, then repackaged with a new demolition-like costume, until McMahon pulled him from TV with the idea that gimmick didn't click either. Kross has already posted a video hinting at his next move in wrestling, so we'll have to see where he ends up. With waves of releases reported to be the new norm at WWE, Brian Alvarez would further note that everything has changed with this new NXT. They know what they want. It's a certain type of person who works a certain way and talks a certain way and is trained from scratch. And they get better quick and they move up or they're out of there. That is the new way that it's gonna work. Alvarez would also confirm that some were released due to being unvaccinated. Yes, it is true. I've heard this from multiple sources that there were individuals that were cut because they refused to get vaccinated. Clearly, it was not all budget cuts, but there were at least a small handful of the names on the list that just didn't want to get vaccinated, and the company didn't want to deal with it, and probably many other things as well. That's the story. With Moxley recently being admitted into rehab for his alcohol issues, Renee Paquette has noted that they will be moving away from Las Vegas back to Moxley's home state of Ohio. As she noted on Instagram, "We're leaving Las Vegas. Goodbye, Sin City. You've been great to me and my family for the past 6 years. We got married here, had our baby here, got our fur babies here, made lifelong friends, had feasts, wrote books, hosted parties, scorched in the heat, but it's time for us to pack up and move into the next chapter. Ohio, here we come." And special shout out to my dad for being an absolute warrior and helping me and baby Nora and the big dumb dogs get out the door. See you soon, Buckeye State. Does this mean it's okay for me to jump on the Bengals bandwagon? Moxley will be off of AEW programming for the time being, as we hope he's able to recover and return to action soon. ECW legend Sabu is now 57 years old and has decided to call it a career. After becoming ECW World and Tag Team Champion, he told Wrestling Shoot interviews, "I'm not doing real good. I hurt my back about a year ago and it's still been hurting. I wrestled a couple of weeks ago, but I shouldn't have. I've only wrestled like twice in the last year, and I only went to the gym a couple of times the last year because I hurt my back. I'm probably not gonna wrestle no more. I'm probably just gonna do autograph signings and personal appearance type stuff." Speaking to Inside the Ropes, former WWE star Rob Van Dam talked about the post-9/11 Smackdown, which was the first public gathering after the attack as other sporting events were cancelled. The episode aired 2 days after the attack, with RVD admitting he was nervous about it. "I think WWE was anxious to get on with it. I remember thinking that it was a horrible idea. These terrorists really want to strike America in its heart. What better way than a stadium full of people on live TV watching pro wrestling, which is as American as it gets. I was thinking it's quite likely that we are not going to be the safest out in front of people. Nowadays, the episode is seen as a good feeling show, giving those watching hope in the aftermath of a national tragedy." With NXT focused on younger talent, it seems the releases reflect this philosophy, as Meltzer noted that age is also likely a part in many of the decisions because the company is well aware that they don't have enough talent in their 20s on TV and are looking at recruiting bigger, younger, and people with more of a legitimate athletic background going forward. The new directives on hiring new women is the recommendations are 25 or younger. One person on Twitter would say something about no longer hiring old wrestlers, and the recently released Frankie Monet would reply, "Shut up, I just turned 38. I've been ashamed to even speak about my age until today. 38 is not old, especially when you're a man. Process that. Age should never be an issue, and I'm sick of people using that as a reason that someone should lose their job. I'm a woman, a wife, a mother to 2 dogs, an aunt and a friend. Nobody should ever say that 38 is old. Grow up." Many of the names cut, like Karrion Kross and Keith Lee, were past their physical prime, so it's safe to say that those over 35 and not being used as much on TV are at the highest risk of being let go. Meltzer would further note that virtually all of the veteran wrestlers that aren't being used on either WWE or NXT TV right now were discussed as potentially being cut over the past week. Following the awkward title exchange between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, the two got into a shouting match backstage, as Flair was supposed to have her title taken by Becky but ended up dropping it. Many saw Lynch as a hero for standing up to Flair, as it was reported that many women in WWE no longer want to work with Charlotte. While it was noted that Charlotte's inner circle of friends wants her to leave WWE, she has years left on her current contract. According to a source that talked to The Observer, Charlotte is not the only one to blame, and had this to say about her being punished. Charlotte is a tricky situation, not just because she's a star in a division with very few stars, but because she's not the only guilty party. Discipline her, and you have to discipline quite a few people. AEW Women's Champion Britt Baker has been enjoying a ton of success recently. Speaking to the Washington Post, she touched on the issues surrounding WWE's developmental system. "I don't think putting a bunch of models and athletes off the street in a warehouse, teaching them all to do the same thing the same way at the same time is going to create a successful roster. People learn differently and they have different strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes you have to find out what those are on your own." With NXT 2.0, WWE is looking for younger and taller stars that don't have experience in pro wrestling. As they are no longer focusing on great independent wrestling stars, it remains to be seen if those coming out of this system can break out. In a quick update, B-Fab from Hit Row was a part of the recent releases from WWE. This was one of the more shocking cuts to fans, but it was additionally noted by Brian Alvarez that she had signed a new WWE deal a week ago. Given she was on NXT and probably signed a main roster contract, B-Fab will not have a 30-day non-compete clause as is standard for NXT stars, but will have a 90-day non-compete clause with the company. Speaking to Breakfast Club Power, WWE Champion Big E talked about how much he earned with his original company contract. When I was with WWE, I got signed in 2009, so I was under WWE contract, but I wasn't on TV. So I was signed to the developmental system, and at that time, I am making $500 a week. So we are talking about $26,000 a year. I'm not making much money. I actually moved with my folks. The money definitely went up for me when I got to the main roster. We have certain people who will be making $300,000. We also have certain people who are making millions. I am fortunate enough to be taken care of. Yeah, we have an actual cereal. It's wild that people know the Bootios but don't know me. I don't know if the picture is real, but God bless his soul, a few years ago there was a picture of DMX with a Bootios box. Talking about the importance of promos, Big E was asked if Goldberg could cut one. I think, and this is not me talking about Goldberg specifically, but I get it. I think sometimes you kind of ruin the mystique by opening your mouth, and we definitely have talent like that. But I think to become a big star, you need to be good on the mic. We have a few people who aren't great on the mic that became big stars. It's a different system now. Back in the day, the stuff that Rock got away with, it was also a different era. And I'm not saying I could be the next Rock if they gave me freedom. I'm not saying that at all, but it's different. It's more scripted, and we have corporate sponsorships to worry about. But you're right, it's a huge part of what we do. And finally, when it comes to going off script, like the situation with Flair and Lynch, Big E mentioned that no one has gone off script with him. It does happen. It hasn't happened with me. People have a bit of respect for me. That's a big part of what we do. People often ask, do you get along with people in the locker room? I say yeah, for the most part, pretty much everyone. It's just like any other workplace, but there is a certain level of trust you have to have with someone in what we do because it is entertainment. And I have to trust you're not going to dump me on my head and break my neck. So you respect me, I respect you, we take care of each other and go home to our families, pay our bills, and move on with our lives. Given her shocking release from WWE, Nia Jax has taken to Instagram to issue a statement, writing, "I usually keep my personal life private, but yesterday's reports leave me with no option but to clarify matters. I recently took a short leave of absence from WWE for a mental health break. I've been working through so much, more than I can share, and so I took some time with the full support of the company to take care of myself. Earlier this week, after WWE sent me my schedule to return to the ring for the November 15th show, I asked for an extension to my mental health break, feeling that I needed more time and hoping I would have the ongoing support of the company I've given my all to for the past 7 years. I did not receive a response. The next I heard, I was being released. My vaccination status was never mentioned. I wasn't given any choices or options. It breaks my heart to be so abruptly let go without consolation when dealing with so much privately. I loved my WWE. I loved my career at WWE. I loved the men and women I worked with, and I'm going to need time to process this huge loss. I appreciate those people who have shown understanding and compassion during an incredibly difficult time." And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.